This is the worst. This is because
Flying head.
it's just him, because this whole thing is fake.
It's
but
just
his
him.
stupid face.
There it is, the squid.
Yeah, the
squid. He looks so bad. You can just keep it running. There's nothing. There's literally nothing here right now.
Like, I even watched... So
we need to know more about something. Baseball mitt. Comics. Do it. Those masculine poses that everybody's doing in this movie. Hal Jordan, everybody. Green Lantern. Yep. Yep.
Alright, well, hey. Welcome to another episode of Legion of Comic Correction. This is where we take on all the injustices we see in comic books, movies, video games, TV shows. We tackle them all. We're here to bring that justice that you are all craving.
That's right. Make sure, though, that you are liking and subscribing, hitting that bell. Leave a comment below if you have something that you'd like to share with us, or if you have an offender that you want us to be looking at. Right now, we're going to jump into our offender for today.
Pay attention.
Green!
So, we're first looking at Green Lantern's gross for this film. This is an absolute disaster. This is a train wreck. Off of a budget of $200 million.
It's a big budget.
It's a huge budget. They ended up only bringing in $219 million. And that's also after $100 million was spent on marketing and advertising. That's insane.
And to give you guys just a reminder that these films are trying their best to double their budgets. That's when they start making a profit. They try and at least double it.
Yeah.
So obviously, this fell awful short.
So their break-even budget for this film was $500 million. So they fell almost $300 million short.
Lovely.
As for the casting in this film, this was actually a really exciting cast. Again with DC, and I feel like I say this almost every single time.
Have you said this before?
Let's go back. Let's take a look at a couple of these.
Yeah.
Said it before.
All the time.
Said it before. DC does an excellent job with their casting. They then just fall apart with everything else. So Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan in Green Lantern, absolutely phenomenal casting. Thing about it is, though, I am so glad that this failed because then we actually got him in Deadpool.
So good.
Blake Lively, his future wife, as Carol Ferris. Peter Sarsgaard as Hector Hammond was actually amazing casting. He fell in love with the role so much, and he deeply ingrained himself into it. And then Mark Strong, our forever bad guy, he was cast as Sinestro. Now, we didn't actually get to see him as a bad guy in this film, which is an absolute shame, but he did an absolutely phenomenal job as Sinestro.
Okay, guys, for popular reception, we had 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think speaks for itself. A 39 on Metascore, so again, not so good. A 5.8 user score. Audiences polled by Cinescore, though. They gave the film an average grade of, what do you think?
A B!
A B!
They gave it a B!
That doesn't make any sense. All right, for some drama on set, we had Ryan Reynolds kind of clashing with the director. They had different creative ideas. The director also wanted Bradley Cooper to be cast as Green Lantern, as Hal Jordan. There is some disagreements going on there, as well as the poor reception causing kind of a ripple effect there for Green Lantern sequels. The Green Lantern 2 movie being canceled, the Green Lantern Corps movie being canceled, and also the idea that this movie was supposed to be the foundation for the Justice League movie, or for their original plan for the Justice League. That all went out the window because of the fact that this movie tanked, bombed, fell through the trash, whatever you want to say, burned to smithereens. It was bad.
This movie set the entire DC plan for Justice League back 2 years.
Yeah, all the way back to Man of Steel.
So
yeah.
This, I cannot stress enough how much this wrecked their entire plans and the studio's plans for rolling out a cinematic universe for DC. It was crippling for them at the time. So for source material, we're looking at the Green Lantern Secret Origin story arc. So this is Green Lantern Volume 4, issues 29 through 35. Now, this isn't where they pulled a lot of plot points. What happened here with the Secret Origin story arc, and the reason it was important, is because they needed to tell a modern day story of a Silver Age comic. So they needed to be able to put practical and realistic pieces into place to be able to tell the story of Green Lantern and pull him into the modern day. So that was why they chose this story arc instead of some other storylines for Green Lantern that they could have chose.
All right, guys, so now you know a little bit of the background of this movie. Let's jump into the correction of Green Lantern. All right, guys, so the Green Lantern movie, it did some good things. It did some bad things. We're going to look at some of the...
A lot more bad things than good things.
We're going to look at some of the top injustices that it did to the comic book character and the series of Green Lantern and what it did for the movie and the movie franchise. So one thing, I know it comes up a lot, is the CGI in this movie. 2011, what'd you think?
So here's what I really needed to put some perspective on was the time frame. So 2011, what had come out 2 years before was Avatar. Now, a lot of people might be like, yeah, but Avatar was a huge undertaking. It was so much more money.
Right.
Avatar was actually done on a $237 million budget.
Whew.
So we're only talking $37 million more. And that you can attribute that to a whole bunch of different things. But the technology that was actually created in Avatar could have easily then been used in this movie for any sort of motion capture, for any sort of CGI, particularly in the Oa scenes. So,
with all the Green Lanterns.
Like, the biggest issues that come out of this movie, and everybody knows about it, is the floating heads. Anytime that you're on Oa, you have to realize the only people and the only real things are Ryan Reynolds' head and Mark Strong's head. So they're literally, if you pull back all of the CGI, you would just see these two guys walking around in all either like green or blue, and like their heads are the only thing bobbing around there. The scenes where you see then also Ryan Reynolds interacting with any of the other lanterns, particularly the scene where they are all together meeting with Sinestro.
Yeah, when he's rallying the troops.
When he's rallying the troops, telling them that they're going to go and fight Parallax. Like, there's some rough crew out there.
It's really bad.
There is a floating squid-looking thing at one point that doesn't even look like it's completed. It doesn't, and they put it directly in the center of Tamare
you're looking at it.
Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds. So it's just like right here, squiggling around, and you're just like, what is going on? I can't even pay attention to the dialogue because this thing is in the background just making faces at me.
Yeah, and to put it also in perspective, so that budget of $237 million for Avatar, they made over $2 billion.
Right.
Their gross was over $2 billion. And again, like, they were one of the... Usually we talk about this where we don't like to see films that are so oversaturated in CGI. We don't like that. Because a lot of times that detracts from the quality of the story.
Yeah.
Avatar is one of those anomalies where even though the whole thing was CGI for the most part, they still were able to tell a really good story through it. And that's not easy to do. We see DC movies, though, falling in that trap so many times. We've talked about in other videos where there is so much CGI and they think they're being cool and they think they're setting up these really cool worlds, and I get that, but we know DC can do good CGI. Right. I mean, Man of Steel came out 2 years later, and I know technology changes a lot, but Man of Steel looked legit. Like, Man of Steel's CGI looked really good.
I gotta be real with you. They're not catching up even with Avatar from 2009.
No. Wow, James Cameron's a pioneer.
But the technology is there. So it's like, use it. Nothing feels authentic about what's happening in this movie. There's so many practical things they could have done with this movie. Just simply starting off, like, I know they took a swing with the suit, didn't need to. Like, just make the suit
Just make it a practical suit.
Make it a practical suit, and then CGI touch it up around it. Like,
oh, you know why the CGI wasn't any good though?
Why?
Because DC doesn't have a lot of money. Like Warner Brothers, this is a small studio, man.
Small studio.
They can't do much. Anything.
Yeah,
they're filming out of their basement.
Right.
That's tough. So it's not like they can afford
hard,
any
man.
animators.
It's hard for those small studios.
It's tough,
they
man.
really get it.
Now, in all fairness to the VFX artists, I'm sure they're really great. But we've seen in the past that Warner Brothers accelerates their timelines like crazy, and they create impossible timelines. So you can be the best VFX artist in the world, but if you have time crunches like they had on Green Lantern, like they had in Justice League, we're gonna get shoddy results. So. I'd be more likely to blame the studio's time frame than necessarily the individual artists.
One of the things that really bothered me in this film was how they approached the Guardians, their perspective on the Guardians, and then the Guardians actually being the ones to craft the Yellow Ring. What did you think?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that seemed a little weird. I mean, I know they were... I kind of respect the risk they took of making Parallax a Guardian, like making him giving in to fear, which I thought that was kind of cool. I'm not against that. Parallax was always a parasite kind of creature that fed on fear, that grew from fear. So I don't mind that they had it like fester inside of a Guardian. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah. But then when we get partially through the movie and Sinestro comes in contact with Parallax and Parallax lets him live and he comes back and puts up the question of, hey, can you guys make a yellow ring? We need to fight fear with fear.
Right.
Which, again, that's great because in the comics, that's what Sinestro kind of pulls towards. He's always fighting that will and fear battle.
Right.
And so he brings that up to them. But the Guardians, they should have said no. I mean, they've been around. Is it hard to say no? Just say no, Sinestro. Sorry, get your mustache out of here. We're not going to make a yellow ring. But they had to go and harvest it.
The thing about it is they've already seen what happens.
Yeah, they
lost
one
a
of their
Guardian because of it.
Right.
So then for them to be like, you know what?
I'm going to make one for you.
I think this is the right move.
Yeah.
Like, really throws me off.
Yeah.
And the Guardians really, they drop the ball.
Yeah.
They make them out to be kind of like at the will or at the whims of Sinestro and not... They never disagree with Sinestro.
Right, and just...
Let me take a corps of lanterns. Let me take a corps of our best to go and fight Parallax. Yeah, go ahead. It didn't work. We need to fight the power of our enemy with itself.
Right, fear with fear.
Fear with fear.
Okay, go
ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Hal Jordan comes in and he makes a suggestion, and I love their response because their response actually to Hal Jordan when he suggests, hey, we should protect Earth, we should do this, and then he goes and does it. Their response is very Guardian-like. They say, well, we need to make plans based on millions of years or thousands of years. Or they're like, we plan by millennia, which makes sense. They're ancient beings.
Perfect sense.
That makes sense, but then why aren't you using that same level of discernment with Sinestro's ideas?
Right,
Sinestro's just like, let me do this really reckless thing, and they're like, you know what? Let me go and mine the yellow fear for you, and encase it in a ring, and then let you hold it. Like, why didn't they hold on to it? How did Sinestro get a hold of the ring? Yeah.
Well, they did hold on to it at the end. Remember, he breaks it in the container.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so they are holding on to it. They didn't just allow him to go away with it.
Okay, my bad, Guardians, my bad.
But, so they were wise enough in that sense, but it's also a matter of, if you're making these plans over millennia, you have to think, we're now introducing a rogue ring into millennial plans. Will has always been the strongest and only thing we needed to be able to fight against evil. Now, after millennia, we are changing our plan here? No, that's not Guardian.
Yeah, for the most part, this movie stays, at least in my opinion, stays relatively close to characters, but that was a big drop off there for the Guardians.
Right.
Like, it just, the other decisions you can kind of excuse away, or you can think, whatever. It is a movie. It's not going to be
with the exception of Parallax.
Right, and we'll get to Parallax in a minute. But the Guardians, man, I don't know. They dropped the ball on that. They dropped the ball on that character. They did everything else, though. If they were to eliminate those scenes of them making the yellow ring for Sinestro, I think they did a good job reflecting the Guardians and what they look like and how they act, and I liked that. I thought that was good. But
except they were completely CGI.
They weren't really? Not Little Blue Men?
Not Little Blue Men. Not at all. No. No motion capture, nothing. No.
I thought it was just, I thought they actually
No, again,
got
to the
Men.
issue of, we've got some issues here with CGI.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sitting on top of their thrones.
Yeah, big capes.
Those
Really,
red
really
capes
long,
dropping all the way down.
Imagine ironing those.
Yeah,
Ew.
yeah.
No, thank you.
You know the other thing that's really weird to me?
Yeah.
After all this, a lot of things. All the things. After all this time, no one questioned why that one chair was broken. Like all that time, it's just now that they're pointing out this chair, and Sinestro's like, "Oh my gosh, I just realized that chair wasn't here."
Yeah, well, it's not. Sinestro's not. He's a warrior. He doesn't look at things.
I'm just like,
things.
Nobody asks like, why is that guardian seat broken?
Nah.
It's just weird to me.
Listen, they got long capes.
They have
capes. Some weird ideas of feng shui.
That's true.
And maybe that cracked throne just really kind of filled out the throne room.
Yeah, because it was super symmetrical in there.
Well, everything was symmetrical
except for the cracked throne.
Well, they needed that one little. You need a little bit of chaos. It gives a little bit of spontaneity to the room.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. One other thing they could have worked on in the movie that I noticed as I was walking through was just the villains, like the choice of villains and how they portrayed the villains. Some of it was okay, but the majority of it was a little off. What do you think about the villains? What did they do good? What did they do badly?
Yeah, I mean, so they got Hector Hammond's his powers right.
Right. The telekinesis.
Right.
Telepathy,
yeah.
Giant head.
They
nailed
it. They nailed the giant head.
Should have been bigger.
I don't know why.
Could have been bigger.
I don't like, so I'm going to get into this in a second, but
yeah.
like Hector Hammond gains all of his powers from examining Abin Sur's body. And something happens within his body. I don't know if like fear attached to him and like jumped into his finger.
Yeah, probably.
And then that's how he developed all of his powers. Where in the comics, he gets his powers from the same meteorite as Gorilla Grodd. Mm-hmm. And like I'm not really that upset about that change.
Yeah.
But what I am upset is the underutilization of Hector Hammond. They made him look like a second-rate villain. And they did that because you put him up against Parallax, and that's not going to be a fair comparison. What they really needed to do was, this is a brand new Hal Jordan Green Lantern. He's never fought anyone before.
Right.
I mean, the person he's fought, he's gotten whooped by in Sinestro, and
those guys in the alley.
Yeah, and those guys in the alley. I mean,
that didn't work.
So he ran away from Sinestro, and then all of a sudden, we're meant to believe he can take down Parallax all by himself.
Right. No other lanterns helped.
No other lanterns helped. The best of the best lanterns get wrecked.
Blake Lively helped.
She
shot some missiles.
Rockets.
Yeah. Which shouldn't have hurt him.
Not at all.
She did.
But it did.
Yeah.
But the greatest lanterns of the Corps, which, again, 3,600 Green Lanterns, which come from all over the universe.
It's a lot.
The best of the best were absolutely decimated by Parallax in a matter of seconds.
Right.
But Hal Jordan never fought anyone before.
Right.
Can completely destroy Parallax. It just doesn't line up with the development of the character.
Yes.
So what they needed to do was have Hector Hammond be the only villain in this film.
Yes, yeah.
If they had him cut his teeth with Hector Hammond and focus on that and really lean into Sarsgaard's performance here, they could have had an absolutely phenomenal film. Because then you get your natural storyline. You get Sarsgaard, where you get his origin story. You get Hector Hammond being the first villain. Then from there, what you do is you turn Sinestro at the end of the movie, like you did with the Stinger. So you get Sinestro in Green Lantern 2.
Yeah,
and then they were planning on Green Lantern Corps. They should have used Parallax with the Corps that Hal Jordan leads.
Right, and
gets tempted by.
Right, and maybe even get him infected by it and lead that into Justice League, where Justice League has to like take down a Parallax Hal Jordan.
Exactly, because Parallax is, in the comics, Parallax infects Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is the issue there. So that even then could set up, a Jon Stewart storyline from there.
Stop it.
I know. we miss
There's
out
so
on.
many good ones.
But
so many good ones.
There was a much easier storyline here, and we run into the same issue that WB does every time, which is we're going to cram. We are going out of business. We are going out of business, and we are selling all of our characters and all of our villains, and they all got to get into one movie because we're never going to make another one again.
Well, they're a small company.
They're small.
They're a really tiny company.
Really
they
tiny.
can't afford.
They never can bounce back.
Yeah,
but it's like they're not learning from their mistakes.
No,
and you can see it time and time and time again with WB. It's like I don't even know if we should do another DC WB review,
they might want to partner
because
with somebody else.
This is like the exact same thing that we're saying. This is what we said about Justice League.
Yep.
This is what we said about Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Like we're not. And here's the thing. Those happen close to each other, so you kind of are like, I'll be a little bit forgiving. But then you go back to 2011 and you see this film and you're like, no, you messed up. You should know by now.
Yeah, we need to go back to the days of George Clooney and the Bat credit card. That was the sweet spot.
So there was a very easy progression here. There was if you had sat down with one of us, somebody who's read comics before, you could have planned through an easy progression to set this up from the beginning to multi-year, over and over and over, like Marvel did with the Avengers.
You can hire us, Warner Brothers.
We're here.
We're here.
Available.
Yeah, we'll quit our jobs.
I'll get somebody to cover for me for a while.
Yeah, we'll consult.
Yeah, definitely.
We will. Our prices are steep.
Yeah.
But you can afford us.
You easily can afford us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
If you can afford to give a $200 million to this
and lose it, and then still make movies.
And still make movies.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yep.
We can do it.
But
we're here. All right, guys, so let's take a look at the verdict here for Green Lantern. Whew, man. A movie that was trying so hard to kick off a DCEU, the first real attempt to start something that would later lead to a Justice League movie. Unfortunately, I know.
Failed attempt.
It fell flat.
Oh, man.
Oh. All right, so overuse of CGI was one of the biggest things that we saw. I think it's one of the most common complaints of this movie. Not only that they used too much CGI, but the CGI just looked so bad.
Yeah.
Right? This movie took place 2 years after Avatar came out, after we saw what motion capture CGI could do, what it could look like on a budget like this, because their budgets were very similar, and they just fell short. It could have been a rushed time frame, could have been just poor choices, character design, development. Regardless, the movie came out looking half-rendered, and it does not age well. It looked bad then, looks worse now.
Yo, let me know who that squid is, because he was all over the place in every one of those corpse scenes. Are you kidding me? What was the point of him?
All right, also, guys, Guardians. Man, the Guardians are so key to Green Lantern comics, movies, TV shows, whatever you put them in, they've got to be up there. They've got to be done well. These Guardians were not done well. Keep them true to the power of will. Mm-hmm. Don't let them give in to fear so easily. Don't let them stand and say, will is the only way, we'll never use fear. And then Sinestro says, what about fear? And they say, oh yeah, let's try fear.
And don't have them say we're making decisions over millennia and then make a snap decision about using fear in this one particular moment. Don't have them abandon the Green Lantern then as well. They're abandoning Hal.
Yeah, regardless of how new a Lantern is, the Lantern is still part of the core and needs to be protected, needs to be supported. And there's no way that the true Guardians that are inside the comics that we all know and love, there's no way they would abandon a Lantern, no matter how new they are, to something like Parallax. That wouldn't happen. All right, and finally, guys, pick an appropriate villain for an origin story. Parallax is one of the greatest villains, not only for Green Lantern, but also for the Justice League and all of the DC multiverse. Right? So don't pick Parallax as the first villain, and certainly don't allow Parallax to be defeated in the first movie. Hector Hammond was a good choice.
Right.
Let Hector Hammond be the villain. Let him be there. Let him kind of train up Green Lantern. Let Hal Jordan get his boots wet, right? Fighting against Hector Hammond. And let that be it. Bring in Parallax on a later movie. Allow your movies to breathe.
So that's the end of our episode for today. Thank you all for joining along with us again. We hope that this can be something that gives you a little bit of closure around the Green Lantern film. Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell. Also, please make sure to check out our list in the description and give us a comment about what you want to see as a future correction. If it's not in the list, go ahead and put it in the comments anyways, because we would love to be able to hear from you.